are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for we are back here on the GSM.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Football Friday. It is now the first day in December 1st. I can't believe it. Time, as I always say, time just continues to go fast. But yeah, we're now in December. We got a lot to talk about on this Football Friday today. Before I get into what we're going to talk about, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, the link is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the bottom of the ticker of the show segment down below. So let's get right into what we are going to talk about. So we'll recap last night's game between the Cowboys and the Seahawks, a very high-scoring game, so we'll get into that. We'll get into the early window matchups for Week 13 in the NFL. We'll also talk about the big college football matchups this weekend as well. Obviously, tonight we have Washington and Oregon, so we'll talk about that. In the final part, the second part of the show, skipped over that. That'll be the third part of the show. The second part of the show will actually preview the NFC Championship game rematch between the 49ers and the Eagles. Then in the third part of the show, we will talk about the early window matchups and the big college football games this weekend. And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about the late window games for Week 13, the rest of the late window games, including, of course, the Sunday night matchup. So that will be that'll be the show for today. So let's get right into the first topic, which is discussing last night's game between the Cowboys and the Seahawks. So, like I said yesterday, I'm taking the Cowboys to win and cover. I don't care what happens. I'm not going against it. And the Seahawks ended up covering the spread. I also went against DK Metcalf in a couple of leagues, and my week in those leagues are not off to a good start. So hopefully, my team puts it together and is able to come back. Because in one of my leagues, I'm already down 83-0 because I was going against someone that had Dak Prescott, DK Metcalf, and Brandon Cooks, and all those guys had good games last night. Including Brandon Cooks, who had a touchdown. So, it's not great. The Seahawks ended up covering and the Cowboys won. So I really just did not, benefit from this game last night. However, it was a very entertaining game. There was actually no punts in this game at all. Teams would turn it over on downs. Actually, there was an Instagram post. I took a screenshot of it if I can just find it. Yeah, so NFL posted. So the game last night joined 4 other games that had no punts in them. So you had Week 2 in 1992, the Bills and the 49ers. There was no punts in that game. The Packers and the Bears, Week 4 of 2014. Also, that same season, the Packers and the Saints, Week 8 of 2014. The Chiefs and the Eagles from 2021, that was Week 4. And then, of course, you have last night's game between the Seahawks and the Cowboys. This game got off to a fast start. Geno Smith, no. Cowboys had the ball. They went 14 plays, 63 yards, almost 6 minutes of time of possession. Down the field. They kicked a field goal. from 30 yards out, Brandon Aubrey. Then, on the Seahawks' first drive of the game, Geno Smith connected with DK Metcalf for 73 yards on a 3rd and 8. And that put the Seahawks up 7-3. Then after that, the Cowboys answered with a touchdown of their own to put them up 10-7. Seahawks missed a field goal. Cowboys then went down the field and scored a touchdown. That was to Brandon Cooks from 7 yards out. So it kind of looked like, the Cowboys at that point were just going to run away with it. But that was not the case. In the second quarter, Seahawks answered with a touchdown to make it 17-14. Zach Charbonnet scored his first NFL touchdown. That was at the goal line. Cowboys answered with a field goal. And then towards the end of the first half, the Seahawks got a touchdown. They went 8 plays, 75 yards. Geno Smith connected with DK Metcalf from 1 yard out. So that put them up 21-20 at the half. Then, to open the second half, Geno Smith scored a rushing touchdown from 5 yards out. They went 10 plays, 75 yards to put themselves up 28-20. Cowboys then answered with a touchdown of their own. They didn't go for 2. They kicked the extra point. Tony Pollard scored a touchdown from 6 yards out. Geno Smith then threw a pick. Cowboys then turned it over on downs, and then the Seahawks went 5 plays, 70 yards. DK Metcalf scored another touchdown. So he just had, out of nowhere, he just had a monster game. And, of course, it had to be the week where I played him in a couple of leagues. Cowboys answered with a field goal to go down 35-30. Seahawks turned it over on downs. Cowboys scored a touchdown to put them up 38-35. Dak Prescott connected with Jake Ferguson for a 12-yard touchdown. They went for 2 and got it. Brandon Cooks caught the 2-point conversion. Seahawks turned it over on downs. Cowboys kicked a field goal to put them up 41-35. And then the Seahawks turned it over on downs. The very last play, Micah Parsons came unblocked, and Geno Smith just threw it into the ground. And that was the game. Cowboys win 41-35. This is the first game that they did not cover at home this season. And, of course, I was 1 week early by picking the Commanders. I should have waited another week, but I did not do that. So looking at the stats for the game, Geno Smith had a very good game, 23 of 41, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns. The interception was really his only mistake. Zach Charbonnet made some plays last night. He ran the ball for 60 yards, had a touchdown. Geno Smith also had a rushing touchdown in this game. DK Metcalf, a monster game, 6 receptions, 134 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 7 receptions for 62 yards. Tyler Lockett had 5 for 47. And then on the other side for the Cowboys, Dak Prescott had a great game as well. 29 of 41, 299 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Tony Pollard had 68 yards on the ground and a touchdown. CeeDee Lamb, of course, was their leading receiver. 12 receptions, 116 yards, and a touchdown. Jake Ferguson had 6 receptions for 77 yards and a touchdown. And Brandon Cooks had 4 for 45 and a touchdown. Cowboys improved to 9-3 on the season, and the Seahawks dropped to 6-6, which that was a big loss for them. And now they play San Francisco again. There's a lot to unpack from this game. A lot of penalties last night. The Cowboys, I thought at one point were going to lose this game. Their defense did not play well at all last night. Again, no punts last night. They did get the interception, of course. Deron Bland was getting burnt all game long. DK Metcalf, again, had a monster game. I wish this happened any other week, but of course, when I'm playing him, he decides to go off. But yeah, the defense, they couldn't get any pressure really on Geno Smith. No sacks last night. They gave up a lot of big plays. And the penalties, like I said, those were my takeaways from, some of my takeaways at least. The offense, Dak Prescott played great. He was not, if they lost the game, it was not going to be because of him. It was going to be because of the defense. That's something going forward that I would be concerned about as a Cowboys fan, which I am not. Because, this team, they finally go up against a team with a winning record. And Geno Smith, he carved them up. They couldn't cover DK Metcalf. And, this is why people don't take the Cowboys seriously. is because, they've been blowing people out at home, and then you got the Seahawks who are coming in, who right now are in a playoff spot, and they could have beat you. Now, what I will say is Dak Prescott made sure that didn't happen because he played a great game again last night. We talked about the MVP odds yesterday. I mean, this only, increases his odds to win MVP right now, Dak Prescott. Again, no turnovers. Another efficient game. I mean, the offense continues to roll. So that's the positive, but the negative is the defense. Because if you're going up now against Philly, which I think they do play each other next week in Dallas, and then, of course, if you got a matchup against the 49ers again, yeah, I mean, the defense, are they going to be able to, get the job done? Now, I'm going to be honest. I mean, I think the game next week against Philly should be a pick'em because Dallas plays great at home, and they almost beat Philly. So, I mean, we'll see, what the line is, after this week. But the defense is definitely a concern. As for Seattle, I mean, that was a huge loss. And especially because now if the Rams win, the Rams have the tiebreaker over Seattle. They could jump over them. You got the Packers. They got a big game against the Chiefs. So if they win, it's not looking good for Seattle right now. And now you got San Francisco coming up. So and you just played them. And it's unfortunate because they did play a good game. Like I said, Geno Smith, he was good last night when he had time to throw. He was able to make his throws, and obviously DK Metcalf had a monster game. It's just that was a huge loss. I honestly thought Seattle was going to win at one point, but you know what? Give the Cowboys credit. They didn't back down, and they get the win. So they are now 9-3 on the season. They still have they're in sole possession of that top wild card spot as of right now, but obviously they have bigger aspirations. They're trying to catch up to the Eagles now, and they're going to have an opportunity. If the Eagles lose, that makes the game even bigger next week when they play each other in Dallas. So, and that should be a great game. The first time these two teams played, it was a great game, so I expect another one as well. But listen, I've been a Dak Prescott, doubter, but I feel like right now he's playing his best football of his career. I mean, I think it's safe to say that. I know some of the opponents you could say, well, of course he would be, but you know what? I even last night, because Cowboys have lost games like that where, they played inferior competition and then they go up against a team that, we'll see how they, match up against them, and they lose, and they won that game, and Dak Prescott didn't turn the ball over. Now, obviously, we got to see them beat Philadelphia, got to see them beat San Francisco. Then I'll really take them seriously. But right now, I'm still, I'm not buying in yet. This team is a very good team, and this team definitely could go to the Super Bowl. But again, I'll believe it when I see it. But Dak Prescott is playing his best football of his career. He is definitely a better quarterback than he was, his rookie season, his first couple of years. Because now you're not relying on Ezekiel Elliott anymore. It's now your team, and they got a lot of weapons. I mean, they seem to always find the tight end. I mean, you had Jason Witten, his first couple of years. Then it looked like Blake Jarwin was going to be the guy. Then it was Dalton Schultz for a couple of years. And now you got Jake Ferguson, who's been playing well. And Brandon Cooks, he's been playing well, recently. CeeDee Lamb is obviously one of the best receivers in the NFL. I mean, he can throw him the ball, and that's what they've been doing. And he's been producing. Although he did have that drop on 4th and 1, which I don't know how he dropped it, but he did. I think it was on 4th and 1. It was on one of the possessions where they turned it over on downs. I forget, I think it was 4th and 1. But this is a good team. But I will say my concern with them is their defense. Especially after last night, because again, you go up against these better teams, besides Seattle. I mean, it's going to be a problem. They couldn't get any pressure on Geno Smith. Now, if you don't get any pressure on Brock Purdy or Jalen Hurts, It's going to be tough. But yeah, that's pretty much it with the first segment. So with that, we are going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about, speaking of Jalen Hurts, we're going to talk about the NFC Championship game rematch between the Eagles and the 49ers. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are now going to discuss the NFC Championship game rematch between the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers. So, obviously, you take it back to when these two teams met in January. Yeah, it was not a good game for. Well, the main reason is because Brock Purdy got hurt. You had Josh Johnson come in, and he just couldn't get anything going. They had Christian McCaffrey play quarterback, pretty much the rest of the game. Because actually, Josh Johnson got hurt too. I want to go back and to the stats for the game. But yeah, it was unfortunate because I really wanted to see a good game, and obviously, I was rooting for San Francisco because I'm a Giant fan, but. And I kind of wanted to see. I want to see these guys, win a Super Bowl. I think they deserve one. Kittle, Debo, McCaffrey, Ayuk. I mean, I think they deserve a Super Bowl. And they've come up short. Well, McCaffrey obviously last year was he was traded there mid-season, but I think those guys they deserve a Super Bowl. But, obviously when Brock Purdy gets hurt, it's going to be tough. Sorry, I'm just pulling up the stats from that game. So, yeah, Josh Johnson was obviously their leading passer, 74 yards. Actually, I forgot. They did put Brock Purdy back in, but, he didn't, he couldn't throw the ball. So he was just, throwing little dump-offs and running the ball. But, yeah, it was tough to watch. I know McCaffrey did throw a pass, but actually I did forget that Brock Purdy did come back in the game, but he just couldn't do anything because he couldn't throw the ball. McCaffrey obviously was their leading rusher, 84 yards and a touchdown. Deebo Samuel was their leading. Wow, that's rough. Deebo Samuel was their leading receiver. He had 3 receptions for 33 yards. Eesh, that's rough. And then for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts. He only went 15 of 25 for 121 yards. Did have a rushing touchdown. Boston Scott had a rushing touchdown. Miles Sanders had 2 rushing touchdowns. Obviously, he is no longer there. It's now DeAndre Swift, Gainwell, and Boston Scott. Devontae Smith had 2 receptions for 36 yards. Wow. I really did not realize how. There really wasn't. The Eagles dominated this game, but that's because, they got short field on some possessions too. Because Josh Johnson did fumble the ball, and that gave them, short field on that possession. Man, nobody really lit up the stat sheet on the offensive side of the ball. But, yeah, the score ended up being 31-7. So, the game was tied at one point. McCaffrey scored that rushing touchdown. You're like, hey, maybe, the 49ers can pull this off, but yeah, that was not the case. So now you flash forward to now. The Eagles right now have the best record in the NFL, only 1 loss on the season, and of course that came against the New York Jets. How did that happen? But again, that's the NFL for you. So right now the Eagles are 3-point underdogs at home, which is very interesting. Comparing the two teams, Niners are 9th in passing yards per game. Eagles are 14th in rushing yards per game. Both teams are top 10. Niners are 7th. Eagles are 8th. Points per game, both teams are tied for third in the NFL, 28.2. And then on the defensive side of the ball, the Niners are 12th against the pass. The Eagles are 29th. The Niners are second against the run. The Eagles are third. And then points allowed, the Niners are first, and the Eagles are 20th. So, with this game, the one thing that I'll say is, I mean, even you saw with the Niners, too, during their losing streak. I mean, both teams, although the Eagles more so, they struggle to cover the pass. And, the Eagles, that was kind of I would say it was a strength of them last year. They don't have C.J. Gardner-Johnson anymore. You still have Darius Slay. You still have, James Bradbury. But and then they traded for Kevin Byard at the deadline. But it's been an issue, and especially going up against this passing game. And if you have Brock Purdy playing the whole game, it's going to be this game is going to be a little different than the NFC Championship game was. And I think the 49ers, they have the weapons where they can exploit that. The Eagles, they've played from behind. Against the Chiefs, they were down 10. Against the Bills, they were down 10. But they came back and won those games. I think this game will be close. I know in my spread pool, the spread was 2.5. I'm gonna take the Niners in this game. Listen, I feel like it's like a coin flip, but I feel like the Eagles are due for a loss, and I was leaning towards the Eagles, but I kind of changed my mind. So with that being said, go ahead and take the Eagles. Same thing as last night. I said go ahead and take the Seahawks. I'm pretty sure I said that. Go ahead and take the Seahawks. Go ahead and take the Eagles because they'll probably end up winning and covering. They have the points. They'll end up winning outright. I feel like the Eagles are due for a loss. There's been a lot of back and forth, on social media with these two teams. I don't know. We're definitely going to see. At times, it's going to get. There's going to be a little bit of, some fights, not full on brawls, but there'll definitely be some chirping back and forth the whole game. Maybe some shoving points during the game, because it's obvious these teams don't like each other. For me personally, I'm just hoping for a good game. That's what I'm hoping for. Being able to watch this game. It should be a lot of fun, this game. As long as nobody gets hurt, I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But like I said, I think the 49ers, they can expose some of the weaknesses in the secondary for the Eagles. The Eagles are good against the run, like I just said, but Christian McCaffrey's going to, do his thing. I have no doubt with that. And the other thing, too, is, the Eagles, they turn the ball over. That's an issue. And, that's been a problem this year. And the 49ers, that's another thing they could take advantage of as well. You force Jalen Hurts to turn the ball over, you put yourself in a good position, to get some points out of it. I think, like I said, this game might be the game of the year. These are the top two teams in football, arguably. The Niners, I think they kind of got their bad stretch of football out of the way. And I think I did talk about that. I'm like, hopefully they get it out of the way by the time they play the Eagles, and they look like the Niners again. You get Trent Williams back, you get Deebo Samuel back, and, now things are looking like how they did, when they got off to a 5-0 start before they lost to P.J. Walker and the Browns. And we might be seeing Joe Flacco playing quarterback for the Browns on Sunday, which I don't even know what to say to that. But we'll get into that, when we preview their game. But yeah, that's really all I have to say on this game. Like I said, Eagles, maybe this is the week they finally lose. And then, it doesn't get any easier for them. They have to play Dallas after this. But also credit to them. They're in their tough stretch right now, and, they've answered the bell. They beat the Chiefs, they beat the Bills. I know the Bills haven't, been great this year, but, Josh Allen played like Josh Allen on Sunday, last Sunday. So, that was a tough game for them. They could have lost it, but you know what? They've been on the winning side of pretty much every game except against the Jets. Still doesn't make any sense. Still doesn't make any sense. But you know what? Again, and I keep saying it, every team is beatable. Every team has had a bad loss this year. That was their bad loss. So, that's why, like, when the playoffs roll around, I mean, it's going to be like, well, I really don't know. I don't know what to expect. Just hoping for a good week in the spread pool. Not off to a great start after last night, of course. And I actually been doing good with the Thursday night games, but between last week on Thanksgiving and this week, I mean, we're just it's not good, not good. And again, there's not a lot of time to make up ground. I mean, mine does extend into the playoffs, but I really got to be close because there's not a lot of games in the playoffs. You got to be perfect, pretty much perfect. If you got any chance at because the top 4 spots get a prize in mine. So yeah, I mean, again, I don't really know what else to say with this game other than really excited for it and just hope that nobody gets hurt. Just please nobody get hurt. I mean, injuries have really affected this season. I really just don't want anything to happen in this game. Let these teams play each other full strength, and let's see. With the Niners having a quarterback, was that the difference between them getting to the Super Bowl or not getting to the Super Bowl? I don't know what I was saying there. Let's see. Is that the reason why, or are the Eagles still going to win even with Brock Purdy playing the whole game? But the game could go either way. I mean, the Eagles being a 3-point underdog, it's kind of it's definitely interesting because I know people have talked about that. Like I said, in my spread pool, it's 2.5. But I mean, we'll just have to see. Got a couple of days before it, so. But yeah, before I get into before we go into our second break of the show, again, I just want to remind you guys as we're winding down here, the end of the segment here. So to tip or donate, make your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, really helps the show, makes it more interactive between myself, the host, and you, the viewer. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below there. So yeah, when we come back from our second break of the show, we're going to preview the early window games, of course. We'll also get into some of the big college football matchups. We'll preview those as well. I'll do the best I can with that. Obviously we have Oregon and Washington tonight, so that gets the weekend started with college football. Of course, you have Georgia and Alabama this week. You also have Iowa and Michigan. Just some of the names, just some of the games that strike you, will come to mind for this weekend. So we'll get into those, and obviously, back to, it's weird. Last week you had every team in the NFL playing, and now again there's teams on byes. I don't know why they had it like that, but whatever. I guess that's just how the schedule plays out. So. But yeah, so that is what we will do when we come back from our second break of the show. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we will now preview some of the big college football matchups this weekend, as well as the early window games for Sunday in the NFL. So obviously we have two college games tonight. We got New Mexico State and Liberty. Liberty's 12-0 in the conference. The Conference USA Championship game. These two teams did play each other earlier in the year, and Liberty won that game 33-17 in that matchup. Right now, the spread, they're favored by 10.5. The over/under is 57.5. They, like I said, the first score, the first matchup they played was 33-17. So that was 50. So now it's 57. I would say I'll take the 10.5. I think I'll do that, and people are probably like, "Of course you would." But yeah, I'll take the 10.5 there. But we'll see what happens with that game. That'll be on that's a CBS game. Then you got the big matchup tonight between Oregon and Washington. They played each other earlier. You got two Heisman candidates, of course, Michael Penix, Joe Nix, of course. Or I said Joe Nix, Bo Nix, sorry. So, the last time they played, Washington won that game 36-33. That was back on October 14th. Bo Nix went 32 of 43, 312 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Bucky Irving had 22 carries for 127 yards and a touchdown. Troy Franklin, 8 receptions for 154 yards and a touchdown. Also, Justin Herbert's brother had a touchdown in this game as well. And then, obviously, for Michael Penix, 22 of 37, 302 yards passing, 4 touchdowns and a pick. Dylan Johnson was their leading rusher, 20 carries for 100 yards and a touchdown. Then you had Rome Aduze. He had 8 receptions for 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jalen Polk, he had 6 receptions for 118 yards and a touchdown. And Giles Jackson also had a touchdown in this game, 6 receptions for 58 yards. So yeah, that was back on October 14th. That improved Washington's record to 6-0. Oregon dropped to 5-1. So now they play each other again. The over/under is 66, and that's a big over. I would take the over in the game. I think if it was a high scoring game last time, I'm going to say it's going to be a high scoring game again. So I would take the over in this game. But yeah, right now Washington's 12-0. Oregon, that was their only loss. So let's see if they can avenge that loss. Then obviously you got Alabama and Georgia. They've had many epic battles over the years. This will actually be the first time they're playing each other this year. Alabama obviously has 1 loss on the season. That came against Texas back on September 9th. Georgia is 12-0. Alabama right now is a 5.5-point underdog. I'll take the 5.5. See if this game ends up being close. But let me know what you guys think. You look at the stats on the season. Georgia is 8th in passing yards per game. Alabama's 59th. Rushing yards per game. Georgia's 32nd. Alabama's 45th. And Georgia's 8th in points per game. Alabama's 17th. Then on defense, Georgia is 12th. Alabama's 15th. Rushing yards per game, or against the run, sorry. Georgia's 28th. Alabama's 36th. And then points allowed, Georgia is 6th. Alabama's 14th. So, but I'll say Alabama maybe covers the spread. You also got Florida State against Louisville. Obviously, Florida State is without their starting quarterback. So, maybe Louisville could pull off the upset here. Right now, the over is 47.5. I would take the over. Take the over in this game. Um, as for like the stats of the two teams, if I can find it. I always have trouble looking at. I obviously look at it. I'm looking on CBS, of course. Um, okay, yeah, I don't know why it's not popping up for me, but yeah. Oh wait, here we go. I got it now. So, Florida State is 26th in passing yards per game. Louisville is 47th. Rushing yards per game. Louisville's 33rd. Florida State is 67th, and then points per game. Florida State is 10th. Louisville's 32nd. Louisville's good against the run, 12th against the run. Florida State is 47th. Passing yards, well, against the pass, Florida State's defense is 10th. Louisville is 56th. And then points allowed, Florida State is 11th, and Louisville is 25th. So, and that game will be airing on ABC. Then you also have the other big matchup. You got Iowa against Michigan. Iowa's defense is pretty good. They're 10-2. Michigan, obviously 12-0 on the season. Their offense is much better than Iowa's. 64th in passing yards per game. Iowa's 130th. Rushing yards per game. Michigan is 53rd. Iowa's 104th. And then points, Michigan is 13th. And Iowa is 124th. And then for the defense, they're both top 10 against the pass. Michigan is 4th. Iowa's 9th. Rushing yards against the run, Michigan is 7th. Iowa is 17th. And then points allowed, top 5. Michigan is 1st and Iowa is 4th. So we'll see. That could be a lower scoring game. I mean, the over-under right now is 35. I'm gonna say the over does hit, but I would say barely. I don't know. I feel like 35 is like really low. But again, you got two good defenses going at it, so maybe that's how it plays out. But let me know what you guys think about these big college football matchups. Who do you think is gonna win these games? Let me know what you think. And then also in the Big 12 championship game, you got Oklahoma State and Texas. That's the other game, other bigger matchup here. That's also on Saturday, of course, 12 p.m. Eastern time. Texas favored by 15. Over/under's 55. I'll say the over hits in that game. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about those big matchups in college football. Who do you think is going to win these games? Let me know. All right, so now let's get into the NFL matchups. So the early window games, as we got 7 minutes left here in this segment. So the early window games, so you got the Chargers and the Patriots. Patriots are 5.5-point underdogs. I took the Patriots in my spread pool. I just really don't trust the Chargers right now, but they got Bailey Zappi starting. So, I mean, right now they're 2-9, but I don't know. I don't really trust the Chargers to cover anything. But because of that, they'll probably cover here in this spot. Obviously they're coming off of another tough loss to the Ravens. But, yeah, I mean, their defense isn't very good. The Patriots, I mean, being at home, I don't know. Maybe they're able to cover the number. So then we got the Lions and the Saints. Saints are 4-point underdogs at home. They have a lot of injuries. Michael Thomas is out. They might not have Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed. And that's basically their whole offense. I mean, you got Alvin Kamara, of course. The Lions, their defense hasn't been great recently. Hopefully, they could turn it around somehow with the defense. I think the Lions get back on track here and they cover this number. I just don't trust the Saints. And you know what? If the Saints end up covering, then I was wrong. But I'm kind of done picking the Saints because I keep giving them so many chances and they let me down constantly. So then we move on to the Falcons and the Jets. Jets are 2-point underdogs. I'm taking the Jets. I feel like they're another team that is due for a win, and this is the week that they can do that. I don't think the Falcons, offensively, the quarterback position is what holds them back. And the Jets have the Texans and the Dolphins after this. This is a game that they can win on the backs of their defense. Their defense can force turnovers, get themselves in short fields. Tim Boyle is starting again. I mean, the Falcons I could see winning this game, but I'm going to take the Jets. They're due for a win. We'll see what happens. Then we got the Cardinals and the Steelers. Cardinals are 5.5 point underdogs. The Steelers finally put up 400 yards of offense against the Bengals, but they still only scored 16 points. I think this is going to be a close game. I'm going to take the Cardinals with the 5.5. I'm a little worried about it. Cardinals defense isn't very good, but you know what? The Steelers offense, they don't put up a ton of points, and Kyler Murray hasn't been bad since he's come back. So I think this game will be close. So I'm taking the Cardinals with the 5.5. Although I have the Steelers winning though. Then we move on. Colts and the Titans. Right now the Titans are 1 point underdogs. There's no Jonathan Taylor in this game. Obviously he's going to miss a couple of weeks. But the Titans just haven't been good offensively recently. The Colts, they've been a nice story this year. 6-5. They have a playoff spot at the moment. I'm gonna take the Colts to win. Zach Moss, he's run the ball effectively, even before Jonathan Taylor came back. So I'm gonna say that continues, and the Colts get the win here, and they cover. Dolphins and the Commanders. Commanders are 9.5 point underdogs at home. Dolphins obviously, coming off of that win against the Jets on Black Friday. Commanders getting blown out by the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. 2 games that I lost. I think it's a lot of points, and I feel like the Commanders, I know they didn't put up a lot of points against Dallas. I think they'll keep it within the number, so I'm going to take the Commanders with the 9.5. But we'll see. I'm taking a lot of underdogs this week, so hopefully that pays off. I mean, of course, the underdog I didn't take covered last night. So then we got the Broncos and the Texans, both teams at 6-5. They're on the outside looking in of the AFC playoff picture, but you know what? I mean, they could find themselves in it, and this is a big game for both teams. Broncos are getting 3 points. Their defense has been playing a lot better. I like the Broncos here in this spot. I think they cover the spread here, and I think they continue to roll. I think they win this game outright as well, but we'll see. I mean, C.J. Stroud, he's not going to make it easy for him because he's been having a great season, a great rookie season. But I'm going to take the Broncos here. So with that, that's all the games to preview for both college football and the early window part of Week 13. So obviously, when we come back from our final break of the show, we're going to preview the other late window games as well as the Sunday night matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs. And there's only 3 games left because obviously we did the 49ers and the Eagles. All that's left is the Panthers and the Bucs, the Browns and the Rams, which we could be seeing Joe Flacco playing quarterback. And then, like I just said, Chiefs and the Packers. And on CBS, it's got the little snowflake icon there. So might be seeing some snow on Sunday, so that'll be nice. And again, I do wish that Aaron Rodgers was playing quarterback for the Packers on Sunday for this game. But we'll see. I mean, Jordan Love, maybe he has another good game. But we'll talk about all that when we come back from our final break of the show here. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we will now preview the late window games for Sunday. Like I said, there's only 3 games, because we did the 49ers and the Eagles, of course. So we got the Bucs and the Panthers, the Browns and the Rams, and the Chiefs and the Packers. So let's start off with the Panthers and the Buccaneers. This game will be in Tampa. Panthers obviously fired their head coach, Frank Reich. So that could, sometimes when that happens, teams play well for some reason. The over-under is actually 37, which is kind of low. Bucs obviously, after that 3-1 start, they're 1-6. And they've lost some close games as well. And I was like, hey, maybe the Bucs are legit. Unfortunately not. I do like them in this spot to bounce back. The Panthers just are not a very good offensive team. I really don't see how they turn it around and end up putting up points now all of a sudden. I don't know. And you know what? I've actually done well picking Panthers games this year. The only games that I've lost, in terms of the spread, obviously, the only games that I've lost are the when they played the Falcons in Week 1. They lost by 2 scores, and then they lost by 10 against Seattle. And Andy Dalton played in that game, and played well. At least his stats are good, even though he threw the ball almost 60 times. 34 of 58, 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. But other than that, I've won pretty much every Panthers game. I mean, I picked them to win their only game, and that was against the Texans, which is really weird. So yeah, I mean, they're playing the Bucs. I mean, I think this is a get right game for the Bucs. I mean, 5.5. I mean, the Bucs I think could win by more than that, but the Panthers could also keep it close. In terms of their league rankings, so the comparisons, the Bucs are 18th in passing yards per game. Panthers are 25th. The Bucs are 31st in rushing yards per game. The Panthers are 28th. The Bucs are 23rd in points per game, and the Panthers are 29th. So yeah, I mean, these teams struggle to put up points, but I do think the Bucs are the better team. The Panthers' defense is actually second against the pass this year. Bucs are 31st, and then against the run, the Bucs are 9th. Panthers are 24th, and then points allowed, the Bucs are 13th, and the Panthers are 30th. So I expect Baker Mayfield to have a good game here. Mike Evans maybe to score some more touchdowns. I'm going to need it this week. Yeah, I like the Bucs to bounce back here, get to 5-7. Panthers lose another game. I like the Bucs to cover here. So, with that being said, let's get into now our second game, and that is the 7-4 Cleveland Browns taking on the 5-6 LA Rams. Rams have now stringed together a couple of wins against divisional opponents. A win could put them in the playoff conversation. Obviously, the Browns' quarterback situation is in a little bit of a mess right now. I shouldn't say a little bit. It's a mess. It's a mess because you have Deshaun Watson out for the year. DTR got hurt in the game against the Broncos. I guess they just really don't trust PJ Walker. He really didn't do anything in the game against the Broncos. So now they had to sign Joe Flacco to their practice squad. So we might see Joe Flacco playing on Sunday. In terms of their league rankings, you got the Rams, who are 15th in passing yards per game. The Browns are 27th. The Browns are 3rd in rushing yards per game. Rams are 14th. Now getting Kyren Williams back. I mean, that's only going to get better. And then in terms of points per game, I mean, both teams are around the same. Browns are 16th. Rams are 17th. Then on the defensive side of the ball, the Browns are number 1 against the pass. Rams are 13th against the run. The Browns are 12th. Rams are 18th. And then points allowed, the Browns defense is 7th. And the Rams is 16th. Matthew Stafford had a good game last week, 4 touchdowns against the Cardinals. I mean, the Rams own the Cardinals. I mean, that's really just how it's been in recent memory. The way the Browns' quarterback situation is, I think the Rams win this game. Right now, I have them in the spread pool, but that's one game that I could just like I could see, losing. Because I think the spread was originally 4.5, but then I think it went down. It went down to 3.5. But I don't know. It's just, with the Browns quarterback situation. I mean, I don't want to pick the Browns if Joe Flacco is playing quarterback. I don't know if I could do that. So that one might be subject to change. If DTR plays, maybe I take the Browns. Because I still don't really trust the Rams either. I think with this Browns defense coming in, they could definitely put pressure on Matthew Stafford and force him into some mistakes. It was kind of surprising how Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp really just didn't do anything last week. I mean, it was the Tyler Higbee, Kyron Williams show. I don't know. I mean, for me, that this game is subject to change. Right now, the over/under is 40.5. It's going to be right around that number. I'm going to say, you know what? I'll actually take the under in this game. I feel like it's going to be a lower scoring game. With the Browns quarterback issues and their defense, that's how I see it. But when it comes to the spread, it's going to be subject to change. I got to see who's playing. Like if Joe Flacco is playing, like am I going to really just pick the Browns with him, playing straight off his couch, coming straight off his couch to play, like Justin Pugh, when he the Giants signed him when they were desperate for offensive linemen. I don't know. You just feel for the Browns and what's been going on because this team is a good team. It's just the quarterback situation is just it's been a mess. It's been a mess. So let's get to the final game on Sunday. You got the Green Bay Packers taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. If Aaron Rodgers stayed one more year, we could have got Mahomes versus Rodgers on Sunday night in Lambeau. But it's going to be Jordan Love versus Patrick Mahomes. They did play against each other back in 2021 when Aaron Rodgers got COVID. That was back in Arrowhead. I think the final score in that game was like 13-7. It was like a really low-scoring game. Hold on, we got to look this up. And that was when like the Chiefs. That was another year when the Chiefs had a little bit of a stretch where they were kind of struggling offensively. Let me see here. The final score in that game was 13-7. Yeah. Yeah, that was Jordan Love's first career start, and he's been playing better as of late. He's been going through a little bit. He was going through a little bit of a funk, and we were all questioning like, is he the guy? Well, right now, at the moment, hey, maybe he is the guy. So in terms of the league rankings, the Chiefs are 7th in passing yards per game. The Packers are 16th. Rushing yards per game, the Chiefs are 17th. Packers are 21st. And then points per game, the Chiefs are 11th. And the Packers are 18th. Then on the defensive side of the ball, both teams are top 10 against the pass. Packers are 8th. Chiefs are 3rd. Rushing yards per game, Packers are 27th. Chiefs are 19th. And then points allowed, Packers are 10th, and the Chiefs are 3rd. So, Packers right now are 6-point underdogs at home, and I actually do currently have them as my pick for Sunday night. Now, they've gone against the Chargers defense. They've gone against the Lions defense. So those are two bad defenses, and Jordan Love has looked good against both. So this will be a true test for Jordan Love. Can he get it done? I mean, the Packers being 6-point underdogs at home. I mean, you got the Chiefs coming in. Lambeau Field is going to be going absolutely bonkers with the Chiefs coming in. Maybe they keep it close. I also got some ground to make up in the spread pool. So, this would be a game to do that if I take the Packers here. But I could very well see the Chiefs also just dominating this game and the Packers returning to reality. That, you went up against some bad defenses. That's why you look good. But I don't know. I mean, they looked bad against the Raiders. They've looked bad. I mean, I'll take anything, Jordan Love has been, making some good throws. His connection with his young receivers, it looks like that's finally starting to take effect. Jaden Reed had another touchdown on Thanksgiving. Christian Watson had a big game on Thanksgiving. a touchdown, that 53-yard reception he had to open up the game. Romeo Doubs and Jordan Love, they had they were getting it going earlier in the year, but not so much lately. The running back situation, we'll see. A.J. Dillon, I think, returned to practice. Aaron Jones is still not practicing, so we'll see if it's been a rough year for Aaron Jones. He just can't stay on the field. Because when he's on the field, he's one of the better running backs in the NFL, but that just hasn't been the case. So we'll see. I think the Chiefs will win this game, but I'm hoping the Packers can maybe cover the spread. Maybe. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to the late window games. Let me know what you guys think about all the games. Who do you think is going to win this week? Let me know in the comments below. So just want to remind you guys again that in about a half hour, a little over a half hour at the moment, because we still got some time here left in the show, I will be streaming once again, talking some baseball, the GSMC Baseball Podcast. A new episode will be, I'll be streaming that at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, so make sure to tune in for that. I'm going to be talking about, the big free agents, and what the news is surrounding some of them. Ohtani, of course, Yamamoto, also Juan Soto and the possibility of him being traded. Also, the Mets making a couple of moves, so we'll talk about that and some other signings as well throughout the league. So that's what that show will be about in a half hour. And hopefully things ramp up next week, so then we have some more things to discuss. Because right now, it's tough when baseball's not really happening at the moment. We're in the off season, and we're waiting for the big free agents to sign, and we're gonna get into all that. We're now in December, so in spring training, before you know it, will be here. Don't want to rush it, but hey, it's true. Because like I keep saying, time goes very fast. But yeah, week 13 in the NFL is upon us. College football is winding down. Not much time left in that. And so before you know it, it is going to be baseball season again. So, but yeah, again, make sure to tune in for the GSMC Baseball Podcast. Like I said, that's going to be in about a half hour, 12 p.m. or 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Like I said, we're going to basically just talk about what the news is revolving around these big free agents. Ohtani, Yamamoto, Bellinger, of course, and then of course you have Juan Soto. The Padres and the Yankees engaging in some trade talks for him. And as a Yankee fan, I'm hoping for the best, but at the same time, got to expect the worst, because who knows? I don't want to get ahead of myself. But yeah, just make sure to tune into that. And, again, I thank everybody for tuning in for today. Another week in the books. I'm really looking forward to this Sunday to just, watch the games. It's going to be nice. My mom told me last night that she's making baked ziti on Sunday. So that to go along with football, that's going to be a great day. So really looking forward to that. But yeah, with that is all the time that we have for today. I thank you guys for watching. Once again, make sure to tune in 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time for another edition of the GSMC Baseball Podcast. So until then, if you tune in for that, I'll see you then. But for everybody else, enjoy the games this weekend. I'll see you guys on Monday. And that's it. Another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network in the books. I'll see some of you guys in a half hour. If not, enjoy the games this weekend, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.